Hello everyone, happy Friday. It's Ali and this is our Instagram live for today. We're talking about routines and habits, and before Peter joins, welcome. Happy Friday, probably Thursday, whatever you are in the world. It is a beautiful sunny day in Brisbane and it's been a manic week. I must admit I've been pretty flat. I'm probably feeling not very much myself over the last week. For those women out there, I'm about to, I think, get my period. And over the years, I've been coming, really cranky when I'm about to get my period. And God knows why. And also, I haven't really got into a good set of routines and habits this week. So for that reason, I feel like something is off. And so I'm really excited to be talking to you guys about exactly that. How can routines and habits really help us? Because it is really the cornerstone of us having that hook that is going to take us back to being ourselves and to being the best version of ourselves, which is so very important. So I'm super pumped. Hi, Omarcito. Hello, hola. Hello. And before I invite Peter to join, hello, Peter, you're already here. Awesome. I will really talk to you guys about what was really happening behind the scenes over the years with me and Square One. So I'm going to talk to you once Peter joins, but I'm so excited because Peter has been such an incredible mentor to me and Aaron. Also, hello, Aaron, you're here. These guys have been transformational on my journey. So Peter, I'm bringing you in. Let's do this. Let's. Cool. Alrighty. It's about to happen. Ooh, Peter, you declined. All right, let's do it again. Hello, Aaron. So good you're here. Okay, I'm just viewing it again, and I'm just gonna go live with you. Hopefully, Instagram likes us this time. Okay. Waiting for Peter online. Okay, cool. It says connecting. Hi, you're here. Hello, can you hear me? I cannot hear you.
I actually pressed the wrong thing. Can you hear me?
No. Let me see if it's me. Hopefully it's not. Not me. I cannot hear you. Can you? If you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I know. Wait. Don't go anywhere. I know why. Bear with me. Sorry, everybody. Technology. Your sound is going through. Okay, now?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. So sorry, my Bluetooth was connected to my phone. How are you, Peter?
Good. How are you? Do I feel like I need to have a hat on?
No, this is my messy head hat. When I've got messy hair, I just put my hat on. Anyway, it helps. It looks like, oh my God, no, I don't have my hair sorted at all. Your hair looks gorgeous though.
Thank you. I just need to turn it up so I can hear you better. There we go.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. But thank you so much for joining joining this chat today. Obviously I was just sharing with everybody, how awesome it's been having you and Aaron as part of my, I guess, entrepreneurial journey, and how, a few years back I was like most entrepreneurs out there, pretty much feeling not very much myself and in a place of, kind of sadness and all these things that, you kind of go into a vortex of emotions, and all of a sudden you can't get yourself out. And coming across the Peak Persona program that at the time was, the very early stages, it just really changed my life, and how, I was able to really get into routines and habits that were like my pickup toolkit for every day. And how from that moment, I have become this person that who would have thought I would wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning? Like,
You got to stop saying that. Everybody's freaking out, thinking it's, a lot of people are really deterred by that concept of waking up early. They think it's this thing we make everybody do, and you don't succeed if you're not a morning person. And look, it's not about that, as you would know, right?
Yeah.
If you choose that that's probably the best way that your day goes, then
Yeah.
by all means wake up early. But some people thrive being night owls, and they thrive getting up at a time that works for them. But as you would have realized, and I've realized over the years, obviously we're both family people, sometimes the only gap that we have in the day is first thing in the morning. So for me, it's always worked, having that morning time. And I think for you, you've probably worked out that setting up your day right is about carving out a bit of time in the day. And if it happens to be at 4 a.m., well, then that's already sometimes. Other times people find it at night. So it's not imperative to do that. But if it works for you, it's just a matter of finding something that fits.
Yeah, exactly. So Peter, just I love for our community and everyone out there who's listening and who will be listening to this, to know more about you and Peak Persona. So tell us more about you, your life, and why Peak Persona came about, and why it has been such a big milestone in your life over the last few years.
Yeah, and I was just speaking about this last night. I'm running a program at the moment with a bunch of parents at the school, getting them to start businesses. And I was talking about Peak Persona, and the concept was, because a lot of people tend to think that sometimes entrepreneurship or starting a new business needs to come with a brand new idea or a brand new thing that's invented. But what we're seeing now is sometimes it's taking something that you maybe already know, or you are good at, or that you really enjoy, and productizing it. Because not often people don't realize the skills that they naturally have, or maybe the way that they view life, or the way they do things that works for them could be helpful or useful to somebody else. And it's only by sometimes when you talk about that and realize that, wow, not everybody does that. Maybe that could be helpful if I created a guide or shared what I do, because it might be beneficial to somebody else. And that's exactly how Peak Persona came about. I never set out or intended to create a business or a structure around some daily routines and lifestyle things that I do, and Aaron does them as well. But having both worked in the same space, we were both running companies, but also doing a lot of presenting, a lot of teaching, a lot of facilitating, a lot of public speaking, which required us to have to perform as such, show up, deliver, be on top of our game, which means, as you know, when you present to a group of people, you've got to be in the right headspace, have the right energy to be able to give your everything to that group of people, whether it's 10 people or 100 people, it's usually the same. And anybody who's presented or done any sort of public speaking would know what that feels like. So there is a set of things that we both were doing to prepare for those moments, or to make sure we were always giving the most to our audience, or the people that we were teaching or facilitating. But we didn't really realize that those things were going to be valuable. But we kept getting asked questions around, well, what do you actually do to show up each day and have your head together and have your family fed and be able to get dressed decently and show up and then deliver with energy and passion and drive, I suppose. And until we really unpacked some of the things that we were both doing, and I think it came naturally to both of us. But there's definitely a lot of it that's engineered, that we've learned over time, and I think working in the space, but also having always been entrepreneurs ourselves. We run businesses, we know what it takes to engineer that right mood and energy, or maintain a level of energy or consistency, how to deal with all the ups and downs and triggers, and how to get through those things and manage a family and a career. So we really distilled or extracted those daily routines, kicked off a very basic program which just highlighted some structures and routines in daily life to be able to identify what works for the individual. So we have things that work for us, which would be different for what works for you, Ali, and it's going to be different for the next 5 people as well. But really, it's around identifying what does it actually take to enable you to show up each day with an amount of energy that you're happy with. And it's not a set amount, you can't fail at this, but what makes you feel good? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you nourishing yourself? And these things all sound really simple, but they are usually the first things that we let go by the wayside or we neglect. When we get busy, when we have lots of things pulling on our attention, whether it's families, relationships, business, study, external pressures, there's things we can control and there's things on the outside that we can't control as well. But it's really about how do we adapt to all of those things? How do we actually put our own needs first so we can show up and then do what we need to do, whatever that thing is?
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things that I remember at the time when I jumped Peak Persona. I remember reading in the copy of the program, it was something around, be more productive and, be at your peak. And at the time I remember just laughing because I was, I'm going to get all these Excel spreadsheets and, figure out how to do more in less time. And to my obviously surprise, it was completely the opposite. It was just really about that moment of pausing and reflecting and really going deep into the things that you, even though you were an adult, you had not adult up. There were things like, my goodness,
yes.
And you're like God. Yeah, the basics.
Basic stuff like, have you had a drink of water today? Now that may seem ridiculous, but when you get busy and you get absorbed, it's like, no, I haven't, or I have, but it's not enough. So you know what? I'm losing my mind, not because of all this other stuff that's happening over here. It's just like, I need to have a drink of water first, or you know what? I've had not enough sleep, or I'm super frustrated and anxious right now, but had I gone for a run this morning, maybe that would have put me in a better mindset. So there's a combination of things that we call adulting, which is really, we forget to do that sometimes, and it's very natural, very, very normal. We all do it in all different circumstances. And that, you know what it's like when sometimes you can go through a phase. It's like going through seasons where you're totally nailing it, you feel good, and then other times you can sort of get distracted or other things take priority and you forget those basic things.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was just saying before you joined, I was just, anyway, having a very, very bad week. I've been shouting at my kids probably every other morning. I'm about to have my period and I'm blaming that, but I know that it's also been a combination of like, I haven't exercised the whole week, which is something I was doing constantly. But after COVID, I must admit, something really shifted in my head and I haven't really got into that routine that I had, which was like every day.
I saw a post of yours where you had taken a selfie in the lift saying pre-COVID when I was going to the gym every day and feeling good. And that's what happens. Something happens. Sometimes it's out of our control. So the external thing, obviously being COVID, or you change your work routine, and this is what happens. Any type of change to that structure when we're going well and everything's good, until sometimes one thing changes and the chain effect of that is, can throw us right off. Like one tiny thing may change, like you and your exercise, but then we don't identify that that's the problem, and then we end up blaming other things, but really we just need to go back and adapt to the change.
Exactly. And that's really important. I really want to tap into some of the fundamentals of routines and habits, because I know that there is a lot of potential for self-discovery, self-growth, resilience, but it starts with baby steps. So I put in one of the stories for before today's chat, I put like a little bit of a graphic or an image that I wanted people to walk away from today with a few ideas that they could like reflect on their adulting, at least their basic fundamental habits. So what would you say would be the fundamental routines that someone right now, during COVID, we're very lucky in Queensland, we're pretty good, but there's so many places, Victoria and around the world, that are not as good as we are. What are the things that they can start incorporating, but also most importantly, how? Like what are the things they need to tap into for them to really get them happening into their lives?
it all just comes down to knowing what it is that it's a self understanding what you individually require to feel good, to not get totally triggered with everything or really small things. So exercise is a huge thing. And I don't mean we all need to go and start training for marathons or run 10Ks a day, but moving our bodies and doing something can always shift our mindset or shift our energy or allow us to have some sort of an outlet. And I think prioritizing a time on which you can get those things done. It's super easy. The first things that go out the window when we have work commitments, family commitments. It's very difficult when you have small children as well to get out the door. So sometimes you're going to need to find something that you do at home. And you could sit there and get really pissed off that you can't go to the gym or you can't join a class, but that's not really going to get you anywhere. It's like, what could you do as a solution? There's lots of things you can do at home. You need the release. You need the commitment to yourself, whether it's you really love getting hot and sweaty and like that heavy physical exercise, or it could be doing some yoga. We all have the internet. There's lots of guides. There's no excuses there, but it's sometimes difficult to come around to the decision that you're going to have to change what works for you. So I would say exercise is huge. Being able to have the headspace to do what you need to do, whether it's work. So do you have an environment set up where you are happy to sit and actually get things done? I think COVID has really drawn attention to this. What do our spaces and zones look like? We're in often the same space. So I'm in my house, I work from here, my family life is here, my weekend time is here. So I have to be able to compartmentalize what I'm doing where and when. And when to be able to switch off of those types of things, break up the day, and knowing what's work time and when are you home now, and does everyone else in your family know what mode everybody's in, and how can we best make all of that work?
And that's a huge one, because I've been talking to so many people about their spaces, and I remember at the time when I was doing the program, it was so clear. You know, you will leave your house, you would have a third space between your house and your work, perhaps, and then the other way around. You know, you would basically be switching your attitudes, behaviors, and actions to really kind of decompress from that space to the other space. And so many people recently that are working from home, as you said, you know, like I'm at home now working, and my kids are here, obviously at school, but there isn't a transition. How do I transition, you know? So that's really tricky. So I've heard this lady, she's like, she makes herself a cup of chocolate at the end of the day, and that's her transition. It's like, that's a great idea, you know? Or turning the music up and go, this is it. Like, I'm transitioning from work to home, because a lot of people are actually feeling a bit burnout for overworking because they don't have to commute, and so they leave the laptop on and, you know, for longer as well. So anyway, I just wanted to say that
the commute or the lack of commute is definitely a huge issue at the moment, because people don't have the ability to transition between those zones. And if we are working from home, what do we do? So for me, I need to get outside, and even if it's a lap around the block, at the end of the day, I need to go out and transition. So you put my earphones in, or if I'm with the kids, you know, we'll go for a bike ride or something. So then I come back into the house, and then that's, you know, dinner time or afternoon time, so that the work day has ended. Same with in the morning. Often I don't have, like, I'll go and do school drop off and come back, and then my work day starts, but I might stop off and get a coffee and then come back in, because then that's my little transition or trigger, is like the day has started now. So I think as far as takeaways, I think the biggest thing is routine. Huge, massive, whatever that looks like. Have one and create one and stick to it, and as best you can, of course, because I could say what my routine is, but it's not going to be the same as what works for you or anybody else. But I think identify when you know when you are productive, or know when you need breaks, know when you possibly need to enter some transition times in there. Do you need to break up the middle of the day with a phone call or a Zoom with a friend to sort of break it up if you're not having that social interaction? Then the other basics things of water, food, and sleep, they seem super basic.
It's like babies. It's like baby nappies, you know? It's like,
it's like going back to having a newborn, and you do sleep training. But it's understanding, like, are you somebody who needs a lot, or Do you really not need a lot of sleep? Are you prioritizing it? Are you planning ahead? In the evenings, are you working towards shutting down and unplugging and unwinding? Are you setting up your morning routine in the evening? So in the morning, if you said, I'm going to do a workout in the morning, or I'm going to do a walk around the block, have you planned for that the night before? Because part of those things is, so for me, I make the decision the night before of what's happening in the morning. So there's no room for error. There's no excuses. My clothes are laid out. I know if I'm either going for a run or going to the gym. The decision is made at night, so I get up and I just follow through with that process. So you've got to really commit. And like, we prioritize work things with no problem at all, but we seem to have problems with prioritizing our personal life. So even putting it into the calendar that's what's happening. Even putting it into the calendar when you're going to have, you know, a coffee with a friend or something, so that it's prioritized and you've made time for it.
Yeah. And I think you just said a word that is so key, which is the commitment. And it's almost like we do believe that work obviously takes an awful lot of time from our lives, and you know, we kind of then, you know, move into our lives, and then we're like, oh, I'm too tired, I've been working all day. And then all of a sudden you're in this like hamster wheel of like, well, you're not growing as a human. You're basically giving all of the things that you've got to maybe an organization that isn't even yours, you know, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, no joke, I feel the way I feel because I'm not working on myself. You know, I'm not really committed to me. And so that commitment is a big one. So I know that a lot of the programs that you guys do and a lot of the research really talks about embedding routines and habits for at least 3 weeks before you then be able to go into that discipline. But that in itself is a huge thing. Like, some people get very excited, you know, January 1st, it's like, yes, I'm going to nail the gym. I'm going to like lose this many kilos, blah, blah, blah. 5 days later, I'm a bit excited. Two months later, no going to the gym. So what is it? Like, why? What does that happen to us?
You know what? I said this to my son the other day because he made the mistake of going, oh, but it's okay, because he's into mountain biking, and every morning and do my thing, and he's like, but it's easy for you, Mum, you're really motivated. I said, you know what? When it's cold and it's dark, I am not motivated. I am not motivated to go out there and do anything. To be honest, I would like to stay in bed where it's warm as well, just like everyone else. But the thing is, it's discipline. It's discipline, and that's the bit which dedicating the time or committing to something. And that's why there are the boot camps, the programs, the transformations, the shifts, whatever the names of the programs are, that are usually anywhere between 30, 60, 90 days. They are designed to shock you or shift you into a different way of operating. And then from that point, after the program, that's when your own discipline or dedication or commitment to yourself needs to kick in. There is no magical formula. You don't just wake up and go, I'm so motivated right now, and you know, all of a sudden I'm transformed. I did this boot camp or this program, and now it just comes naturally to me. There's still going to be hard parts, but what you should have learned is how good you feel when you do it. Yeah, that's the difference. Any program is designed to show you a different way, or to highlight a feeling that you could have if you were to put the effort into yourself. So that's the magic. And that's why we always say, find what works for you. Find a routine that works for you. I could share mine, but it might not work for you. But hopefully you feel the difference when you've had enough sleep, when you eat well, when you drink enough water, when you prioritize time and your family gets to see you as much as your work people, if not more, when you have had enough of your soul cup filled up in the morning and you've done your stuff, and all of a sudden, no matter what happens in that day, nothing else can go wrong, simply because you've had your cup filled up first. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So even if you only get to feel that for a couple of weeks, and then you might fall off the wagon after that, at least you know what the feeling feels like. It's up to you then to engineer the best version of yourself, or the best version of your routine to then get back there. So it's very much an individual journey.
Exactly. And it's so hard to be, well, so easy rather, when you feel off the wagon. Like for me, like I was training so hard at the gym, COVID happened. I kind of did a little bit of at home, and now I'm like, gym, don't feel like it. And I just really give myself a hard time. Like it pops up in my head, I will say at least 15 times a day, at least 15 times a day. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, this is just taking so much brain power and energy. Like if I
Yeah.
know the moment I decide to move back to that routine where I was just like constantly on it and working and heading to the gym, even at home, just like moving my body, doing a bit of a yoga stretch, whatever it was, just the accomplishment, just to
Something.
know that
Because if you
I
can tick
did
that
that.
off the list in the morning, it's like, yay, high five to yourself. You've done the
Exactly.
thing. Then, like
Exactly.
the brain, like you said, the brain space, the loops that we tend to go into, the negative thoughts. It's like, you didn't do this thing this morning. Can't believe you're not dedicating time. You know how good you feel, but why didn't you do that? And the key is to recognize, and I think that's the other part of the program, or the programs that we run. First of all, it's on routines and habits. The other one is understanding what your triggers are. And if you know that you go into these negative patterns of behavior or have a dark side or your negative thought patterns, it's more of an awareness, like being aware when they start, okay, this is what's happening because I didn't do this. So what
Yeah.
could I possibly do to correct it so that this doesn't happen again tomorrow? Or what's better is, how do we intercept that thought pattern halfway through the day so the whole day is not derailed because of maybe some poor decisions you made first thing in the morning?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
understanding what your triggers are and how you can shift your mindset, whether it needs to be something you do in the middle of the day, put some music on, change your mood, alter your state, connect with people, get out and feel the sunshine, whatever the thing is that works for you.
Yeah.
It's about unpacking that. And there's a range of programs that we go through to help you identify the best things that work for your own self.
Yeah. No, awesome. And I know that one of the things I wanted to ask, especially around, that the triggering, but also the positivity, that we know that it's almost that paradox. And I talk a lot about the Stockwell paradox, in which, this man, Captain Stockwell, he was captured in Vietnam for many, many years, tortured for many, many years. And he had this paradox, which is like, it is that constant realization that life is pretty hard at times. For him was like he was being tortured by
Yep.
many years, but on the other end he had to really have that optimism that things were going to be okay. That paradox is really tricky to manage, because especially now with COVID and everything that has happened, even for places like where we are, that we're pretty good, but every other person I talk to is either unemployed or know someone who lost a job, or themselves, have been affected by things happening around the world. Just it's really, it can really keep us down. So really understanding those triggers. So one thing I wanted to add was around the routines and habits that you can really build, maybe around mindfulness and creating that positivity and presence. Because I think a lot of the people that have practiced mindfulness and meditation or different other ways of mindfulness have learned very quickly about the power of just pausing and just calming your body down. Sometimes it's actually how your body is so tense up that the moment you start breathing. So tell us a little bit more about how this concept of mindfulness can really help, and how it can be embedded into someone's routines as well.
Yeah, mindfulness means something different to everybody, and everybody will have something different that works for them. But it's really about being aware of the things you can control and the things you can't actually control, and bringing it back to just being present in the moment and what is actually in this moment with you, and what are you aware of. What do you have in your immediate space, whether it's the people in your life. So obviously we can't change what's happening, for example, with COVID. We can't actually shift the dial there, we can't. But what we can do is change our own reaction to that, or change how we think about it, or change how the conversations we have with our kids about it. And I think it's just about being hyper aware of what's in your immediate state or your immediate presence in your immediate company and how you feel about that. And then just remembering there's one way to always feel a little bit better about your situation, and then to think of others who are in situations that aren't as positive as yours. And it certainly brings you back and brings back that reality of what you actually do have, and focusing on those things that you actually do have that are positive. So for me, you know, I've had not a great couple of years in my personal life, and then COVID on top of that has been a real stretch trying to find things to remember or remind me of what to focus on. And my kids are a perfect way to focus on just the simple way that they view the world, and possibly take a moment sometimes to look at the world through their eyes. And then just doing more simple things that slow us right down. And we have been rushing, and we can be super busy, and you can get absorbed into online, and unplugging sometimes from the negativity is a great way to do that. Unplugging, disconnecting from social media, from media, going back to what's real, what you can actually manage in your own family, in your own life, and then think about those things that make you happy.
Yeah, it's so true. I the other day, I don't know, I was just like doing my hair in the bathroom, and it was like morning, you know, kids getting ready, someone is like pulling someone's hair, you know, something is happening, and I was in the bathroom, and I could really hear my thoughts going into a vortex of negativity. Like, this is within maybe no more than 10 seconds. And all of a sudden I started hyperventilating so hard that I really genuinely thought something physical was going to happen. And because obviously, you know, I've been very fortunate to come across so many ways that I could control my emotions, I right away sat down and started breathing. I closed my eyes. In the chaos of the morning, I closed my eyes, and I probably started breathing for like about maybe 2 minutes, no more than that. And I could automatically feel my body just relaxing. A lot of people might not have the right tools, or in the moment recognize that that's what they have to do. And that was very impactful for me, because I knew exactly I needed to do that. My body started relaxing, therefore my brain started relaxing. I could feel my emotions, I could be present. And one of the things that I've been tending to do recently, especially to your point, Peta, around mindfulness, is whatever works for everybody. And being grateful is one of the things that people talk about a lot, and say, oh, you know, you need to write down every day, what are you grateful for? And I must admit that there was a concept that I struggled with, and I still, to an extent, struggle. But the way I managed to shift that was to really talk about what are the positive interactions, activities, and thoughts I think constantly during the day. And it's a brain training exercise that actually people trying to help me at the beginning, when it was like, what are you grateful for? What are the good things happening in your life? And in that moment, I open my phone every day when I'm in this vortex. I write down what is happening in this moment that is good, you know. And it could be as simple as I'm freaking realizing that I'm like about to have a panic attack or something, but I'm still recognizing it. That's good.
Yes, you're recognizing it before having the panic attack. You know what? Right. It's fascinating to observe your mind. So I'm someone who sometimes, and I don't like admitting it, but I naturally go into the negative state opposed to a positive. I can be quite pessimistic. So it takes me a lot of energy to engineer or to focus on being really positive, and to look for those things to look forward to and to get excited about, without trying to preempt what I'd get disappointed about. So it's absolutely not something that comes natural to me. And like you were talking about taking the deep breaths, the moment somebody mentioned meditation or anything, I would just immediately have a resistance of like, no, I can't do that. I'll sit on the yoga mat, you know, thinking the whole thing should be getting faster. But I did commit to getting better at that. And I embarked on a yoga journey this year, because I thought I need to get better at this. I can't just continuously hope everything goes faster and quicker and I'll get over the feeling. So I did need to sit with myself. But it took probably about 3 months of continuous practice to be aware of how I feel, and use breath. And now I can do it, but it's taken a very long time to be able to sit and take a few deep breaths for it to have any impact on me whatsoever. Sometimes I do feel a really good technique, and it's not about gratitude journaling. But if I'm having those recurring thoughts that are frustrating or weighing me down or making me feel anxious, I put them into a parking lot. So I will just, because the only reason I'm feeling anxious is I keep looping because they're not going anywhere. They're not serving any purpose. They're just spinning around. So sometimes I think, you know what? I just need to get these out, put them on paper, because I need to park somewhere, which means I'm validating them. They're somewhere, but I just don't have the energy to keep having them loop around in my head right now. So I'll write them down. And sometimes that's enough to go, okay, that's I've ejected that negative disc. Thank you. Bye. And then if I really want to revisit it, then it's there for me later on. Because again, in that negative headspace, I find it very difficult to then go, I'm going to go on gratitude journal now. I just, I'd rather think, well, what is bad? Let's take it out and then make some room for some more positive stuff to go in.
Yeah. That brain dumping definitely works for me as well. Like, which I think is what you know, that parking space.
There's two versions which you would know of, which is what we do in Peak Persona a lot. A lot of the programs we encourage people to do downloads. So half the time we don't need a conversation. We don't need to talk about what's going on, but there is a whole lot of stuff we just need to go have a verbal diarrhea. Like I could just pick up a phone to you, Ali, because you know how to do a download, or I've got a friends group on Snapchat and I can just go on, have a little rant, drop my video, and it's gone. No one's going to respond. No one's going to go say, Peter, are you okay? Should we talk about it? No, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. But you know,
I don't want you to fix it. Yeah.
Because half the time I just needed to say it. I needed to get it out, and then we can move on. Now, of course, if there's something alarming there or something we may need to talk about, or maybe I should have a conversation about it, it's about being aware of the difference between the two. But as you know, sometimes you just need to download what happened in the day, process some information, free up some headspace to make some room for some more positive things. So the art of downloading is definitely something I can recommend for some people want to write down as a tool and a technique to embed in their daily practice, just to review what happened in the day. You don't, you know, if you've got someone good, trusted, gets you and knows what it's like to be downloaded to, but also to be able to do that as a technique of processing the information, I think is really powerful.
It's huge. And I remember at the time when I was doing the downloads, and I told my husband, it's like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you everything that I feel, but I don't want you to fix it, you know, because sometimes it's like, oh, but why is it happening? You know, you should be doing it. Like, no, just hear me out. I don't need you to fix it. And I think for a lot of people, like I'm an introvert, for example, and I do struggle telling people how I feel, because I feel like it's going to be a bit of a burden for them. It's like, I feel terrible that now I'm passing on, you know, what I feel to others. So I think what you just mentioned, that video, like recording yourself, and not, sometimes people don't need to send it to anybody. It's just the process of just saying it out loud.
Yep.
So powerful.
Yep. Absolutely. So sometimes I know somebody who just does a lot of them on their phone, and they just keep them just as like a little video diary. Because sometimes this is another thing, if you are going through one of those tough places, or it's nice to reflect back and see how far you've come sometimes. Because if we don't sort of document what's been going on or how you've felt, and this is another thing about getting through or dealing with hard things, is the only way to get better at dealing with hard things is to keep doing more hard things. And then you learn your own personal strategy around the feelings that come up and the resistance that you may have, or the fear or the anxiety. And then you go, you know what, I know what this is. I know when I start doing that thing tomorrow, I'm going to feel better because I've done this before. I've done this 1,000 times before. Is doing what we call micro acts of bravery. What's something very small, achievable, that you can keep doing over and over, and then keep building up. It's like the public speaking fear that's so many people have. So we always say, just do something small that's not so daunting, and then when you get a little bit more confident, you can choose a bigger thing, and then a bigger thing. And it's the same with any other type of hard things, like starting businesses, pitching for investment, or getting someone to back you, or to hear your new idea. They're all scary things.
Well, that's it. Kathy just put a comment here. Love you, amazing women. We love you back, Kathy. If you don't follow Kathy, follow Kathy. Kathy posts the most gorgeous sunrises from Burleigh Heads from Queensland every single morning. So
I think
Kathy,
every single person in lockdown needs to follow Kathy's Instagram
oh, yeah.
because you would get a sunrise every morning at the beach.
Every morning, it's just too good. Every time I just look at it, it just takes me somewhere beautiful. So Kathy, you're transforming people's lives without knowing that you are. So keep doing it. We love you back.
Yeah.
So anyone who's got questions, I want to be leading towards the end of the conversation, but anyone who's got questions for Peta, please shout and let us know if there's anything specifically going on with you and your life, embedding habits, which is in itself a process that might be tricky for some of you. But Peta, just on the aspect of community, because I know that's a big thing for Peak Persona, and it's probably for me, was one of the big factors that I found really encouraging and empowering, is that I wasn't alone. I never felt alone. I think sometimes when you're deciding to do something that might be transformational, as in just go for a walk because you haven't done walks for years, just things like that, and maybe sometimes without, people don't do it consciously or on purpose, but sometimes your environment isn't encouraging you. Your environment might be going, are you insane waking up at this time? Or you insane not watching Netflix because you're, like, what's going on? And so tell us a little bit.
Coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So tell us, how can people maybe embed community into their lives to really have like-minded people that like them, they want to grow, or they're, kind of really trying to transition into a better life? How can people do that during these times, especially when, we're like pretty much in isolation, to be honest?
Yeah, I think it's such a powerful thing. And look, a lot of people have really strong networks or personal networks or friend group, or they might work with a really good bunch of people. And as you would know, when you run your own business, you often don't have a lot of people around you, because sometimes you could be starting out on your own. And this is for people who also work within organizations. So, or anybody looking to make any sort of changes, you're going to come up with some resistance, because your change inadvertently sometimes impacts those around you. Because if you are now getting up earlier or exercising, and there's people around you who used to not do that with you, and it means you could be now spending some time away from them. So there might be some subconscious resistance that comes across that might deter you a little bit from making those changes. And on those days when you are needing a little bit more support or motivation from external people, when you just don't have it in yourself to keep going, relying on a community that also understands what you're going through or why you're doing it can be the thing that either gets you through or doesn't. So finding those type of people in whatever sector you're in, whether you're into fitness or whether you're into, if you're into healthy eating or whatever those things are, the reliance on the community is pretty powerful, or knowing people have got your back. But what we found is with the Peak Persona community is people come for a program, but they end up staying because of the community, because what they find there is people who also want to change. They're really enjoying growing and evolving and pushing the boundaries, or understanding themselves a little bit more. And when they do have those moments where they might wobble a little bit or lack motivation, sometimes even just sharing that, there'll be so much support there, and that's enough to either say, you know what, that feeling's completely normal, I feel like that too, or do you know what, all you need is this, whatever the suggestion might be. It's just enough to know you're not alone, and that there are people out there feeling the same thing. Like any community, it's about the connection piece. Who is connected to, what is that, what is the feeling? And often we won't believe people if they haven't done it themselves. And it's very easy to have somebody sitting there saying you should do this, this and this, but then again, if it doesn't match your lifestyle, if that person sort of seems very unrealistically far away from the situation you're at, it's really hard to believe what they're saying, even though it makes a lot of sense on paper. But I think believability, vulnerability, trust, knowing that everybody's human and we all have bad days and stuff up and fall
Yeah.
off the wagon and need to build a new wagon and keep going, or whatever the scenario is.
Yeah,
And
that's it.
it doesn't actually come easy for anybody. It's a misconception that some people are just born super motivated and make it all work. It requires effort. And I think knowing what effort is involved means that other people who are also doing that kind of living life that way means we appreciate all the details. We appreciate every time you get up early, or every sunrise pic that Kathy posts means, you know, she's up at 4. She probably didn't want to be, but she did, and look at the reward. And then we're all going, yay, because we knew what it took to get there. So it's like you get the
Yeah.
support from all the people around you.
Exactly. And it's so huge. And I think for those people listening who might go, oh my God, this sounds really good, but also scary. And maybe there is someone out there in your group who is trying something new just to make themselves better. Be that accountability buddy, you know,
Yes.
just say, hey, would you like me to drop you a text just to make sure you go to the gym? Or, hey, would you like me to just like give you a call just to check how you're progressing with that thing? And so that makes such a huge difference, just to know that there is someone else who you kind of gotta like, yeah, I'm doing the thing I said, you know.
Yes.
And it's
Because it
huge.
can be
So
really daunting doing that in a public space or when there's lots of people. Often when people start out doing things differently, they sort of want to do it privately until they sort of nail it or get better at it. So even having one person, yes, even that little text, if they knew they were going for something during the day, or they were doing something that's going to be challenging, just to follow up at the end of the day saying, how did you go today? I knew it was going to be big for you. Or how did you feel doing that thing? Or do you want to text in the morning to make sure you get up, because I know you've got a big day ahead, so you want to get prepared. Just there's so many things that so many benefits from sharing, I think, that journey or what it is that you're chasing with other people.
yeah, exactly. The kindness goes all around, you know. So I love that. Peta, where can people find more information about P Persona? What are you guys up to these days? What are you offering to, you know, people who have like zero discipline, or people who've been maybe trying a few things and they kind of want to like maybe up their game a little bit more?
Yeah, well, peakpersona.com is the website where there's probably not a lot of information on there right now. We're in the process of reloading a few things on there, but there is a program called Baseline, which is probably the best starting point. It is self-paced, it's online. You just get a task a day. So it's like 10 minutes a day of checking the app to see what the focus is for that day, and it only goes for 14 days, because a lot of people get overwhelmed with like, oh my gosh, I couldn't possibly fit another thing into my routine. I'm already doing so much. I'm feeling stressed out, or I feel very overwhelmed. Like there's so much going on. There's no way I could do something else. But it's not about the more doing. It's actually stripping back the layers or making you be a bit more aware of what you are doing right now. So it's only 14 days, very, very short time frame. And it's a great starting point. And like I said, self-paced. It's also much better if you bring some friends along with you and do it together, because that accountability piece, like we just talked about, if you've got some friends also, you know, getting up early or checking in to make sure you drank your water, or making sure that you are doing the things, whatever the daily task is, it's much more enjoyable if you've got some people around you. And then on the back of that, we have some other programs designed for different levels of understanding, or peeling back the layers a little bit more of self-awareness. And then there's some that are definitely dedicated towards some people who are really looking to tackle some either personal challenges or some business challenges that they really want to step up and perform in their business or in their life. Because we all know there's this, we have a lot of fear of failure, but sometimes there is a huge amount of fear of being successful. So we tend to just stay where it's kind of safe, and we just do our thing that we know how to do really well. But then there's this next level of like, well, what will it actually take for me to push a little bit further, or challenge myself a bit more? And with each level of business growth requires another level of self-growth of how you can actually keep running that company at that stage. So there is a lot focused towards business in the later programs, but the earlier programs, Baseline's the best place to start.
Cool. Awesome. And I could not recommend it enough. I did Baseline, I guess, in the 30-day version. And as I said to everyone, it was life-changing. I became a completely different person. People don't recognize me from the point of view that I was never, ever an early morning person. And then all of a sudden I became that person. For me, it was really important because as a mom, a business owner, I didn't really have a lot of time to play within my day. And so I really needed to focus in the morning to make sure I was feeling pretty high at my peak. I was happy. I made my bed. I drank my celery juice. I would journal. I would meditate. I would exercise. I would put my music on. I was like, I'm like ready for the day. It's such a good feeling. And yeah, so again, kind of recommended enough. Peta, you and Aaron, obviously, as you know, you transformed my life, and Peak Persona changed me for the better. And again, we talk to people an awful lot about really bringing new experiences into their lives as prototypes and experiments, because I genuinely believe, and this is what we do at Square One, is that we want people to design better lives, and better lives could involve the mindsets, the processes, the things that we do every day to really transition into new better versions. So I really believe we need routines for that. And really thank you so much for spending these 30, 40, 50 minutes with me. We went really fast. So thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me, and that's a lovely endorsement. But it's like any book. We all read the books. We buy the books. We download the books. We read the audio books. But
Pete, I think I lost you. Oh my goodness, you were breaking up. And I might have lost you. Technology is not in our favor. So if you come back, we'll keep chatting. But anyway, we will wrapping up. So oopsie. Thank you, Peta. Sorry, everyone. Thank you so much for having us, and or on our live. And so thank you so much for being around. If you do have any questions about what Peta offer, of course, peakpersona.com. If you do have any questions about the programs that we're also offering on our end, at the moment, we're just doing live design coaching, and there is some information on our website, or reach out to us via email. We are on the journey of people's lives being better and more fulfilled. So we're really helping a lot of individuals in that space right now. And yeah, prototyping your life is part of what it is. Just really being fearful in fear, and really trying new stuff to really ensure that you're living your best life. Anyway, that is it for me. Happy Thursday or Friday, anywhere you are. And I'll catch you guys very soon. Take care. Bye.